Well, there are so many. If we start, there are so many techniques, so many approaches. Psychology has evolved so much in the past decades that we have, so different approaches. Um, for me, the first one, let's talk about self-awareness. Okay, it has to do very much with being present, with staying in the present moment. And for example, meditation helps a lot to actually turn the focus, instead of so much living on the outward world, to drive it and to refocus it on your internal world. Okay, because human beings have the tendency to make the world adapt to their needs. Okay, the world needs to adapt to my needs, so that the world needs to make me happy. Okay, it's a bit like a subconscious demand that we make on the world. Okay, and that rarely happens, and the world normally turns out to be quite disappointing, because if you finally get the world, to satisfy your needs, it will be temporary. So that's why it's so important to turn your attention, your focus to the inside. There is, I don't know if you know the 90-10 principle. This principle says that 10% is what happens, the events, okay, in your life, whatever. I don't know, if you get a new job, if you're fired from your that new job, if you marry, if you divorce, if you get a car, if you have a car accident, whatever. Okay, just the event in itself. Okay, and the 90% is how you interpret that event, what you do with it. Okay, the meaning that you give to that event. At that 90%, it what it has to do with your thoughts, with your emotions, with how you manage the situation internally in your mind, according to your mental programming, of course, because events are neutral. Okay, the same event can be a disaster for one person, can be a huge happiness and joy for other. So it's how you interpret, okay, each event, what is going to decide your level of happiness. So that would be one technique. Let's call it being present. Let's call it a mindfulness attitude, meditation. Okay. The second one, let's talk about emotion management. What do you do um, with your techniques? I mean, with your emotions. Well, there are many techniques to manage your emotions, and starting with your body, bodily techniques. Let's talk about, for example, doing physical exercise, about breathing. But if we talk about some other techniques that have to do more with cognitive levels, for example, we have a beautiful one called reinterpreting of your emotions. And let me give you an example, okay, what I mean by this. Imagine fear. Fear is a very commonly known emotion. Everybody has experienced fear at some point in their lives, right? Fear was a very useful emotion that prevented a human being from dying, for example, from an external objective threat, for example, a lion that wanted to eat you when we were living in the jungle. Okay. And fear was the emotion that predisposed you to either fight, flee, or just stay, hidden. And as I said, it was really, really useful. But nowadays, we don't have any more objective threats in your life that really threaten your life. I mean, very few. If you can count them, maybe one, two in your life, no more than that. Maybe three, four. But if you count so many times you have felt fear in your life, we were talking about hundreds, millions of times. But there was no external real threat outside. So what happened? Well, we are a bit confused with the what we have learned in life, because we are calling uh, an emotion of fear when it's not fear. Okay, for example, You park your car outside and you have the fear, the worry that someone might steal it. Okay. You have the fear that your partner could abandon you one day. You have the fear that your children they get addicted to mobile phones, for example. There can be so many fears in inverted commas, but it's not fear, it's an attachment. Okay, fear is only when your life is at threat. Okay, just like that. Let's call it fear when there is a lion, somebody wants to attack you. Okay, and there is a real threat to your life. The rest are attachments. You are attached to your car, you are attached to your wife or your husband, you are attached to the idea of how you want your children to be. So if we starting, pulling the thread, we realize that most of the times it wasn't fear what we felt, it was attachments. And according to Buddhism, the attachments are what the source of suffering, okay, in a human mind. And that's another way to rationalize your emotions, to become aware that is not fear, it's an attachment. And so many other so other techniques, to manage your emotions. EFT is a great technique also, especially for anxiety. There are some others called BSFF, which is a great technique to erase your emotional roots. um, So many, Elif, so many. I could count them. I couldn't list all of them now because they are countless.